How you doing, guys?
Oh, real good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm
Real
good.
good.
Connor, how are
This is our
you?
first time doing this, isn't it, guys?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
We haven't stuffed up, two times already. This is the
Oh,
fourth
fuck.
time said hello to you guys.
I guess it's just a
Okay.
lazy Sunday because it's Father's Day, and then
Oh,
it's a long weekend here. Tomorrow's Labor Day, so it's a massive weekend. But in Melbourne, I
Labor
guess
Day.
it's all day holiday, isn't it?
everybody knows you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day.
Is it holiday in Melbourne? Every day is a holiday.
Yeah, for a lot of jobs, to be honest. Yeah, they just
Feels
announced some
like
new
that.
stuff for us actually. There was
Yeah.
updates when things might start to open, but
What
look,
does it say?
Well, I
there's
think
like
on the
four different
28th of,
phases.
yeah, I think around the 28th of November, like the plan, depending on how like the case numbers are, like basically
28th.
gyms will be, yeah, the gyms will be like one of the
Hmm.
last things to open up. There's plenty of other things before that, but we don't have to get into that. But I was just going to say, like, yeah, so around the 28th, if
Wow.
numbers, depending on where the numbers are, like if they're pretty much close to zero or at zero, there will be reopening gyms. So
Wow.
I guess some goal setting right now is well needed between now and then.
I guess so.
So
I guess so.
yeah, I guess the
Wow.
question is how to set them.
How to set goals? Yeah, that's a nice question, Nick. Very nice question. I think Connor would
Yeah.
like
Frantic.
to go ahead.
I'm gonna dish it off because I know you're drunk. It's 6 a.m. So who else could better answer this question? Frantic, I'm gonna let you go first.
Hold on. I'm not. I was drunk, but I'm okay now. I had a cup of
Yeah.
coffee. Goal setting. Um, do I set goals? Yes.
Yeah.
All the time?
That-
No. Most of the time, yes. I do set goals. Achieving them is something that I sometimes fail at because I'm human, and
mm.
I sometimes succeed.
But why do you
Cause
feel you fail some of these goals then?
that's a very nice question. Why do I fail the goals? Probably it's because I laze around a little bit. Sometimes I become lazy. Cause it's I feel like it's human nature to become lazy, and then it also depends on the priority of the thing that I'm
Mm,
doing. For example, if it's something that is necessary,
Mm.
you set a goal on that and you achieve it. If it's something that's not at that like high necessity zone, you probably laze around a little bit. For example, I'll give you a simple example: exams in school, right?
Mm.
Um, I don't know why, but it should be a very necessary, high necessity thing. But I've never placed it on that point, on that pedestal of high necessity. So what I've
Mm.
always done is last day study, and I'm not proud of that, and I'm not happy with it as well. I might have been a star student, but there you go. Um, now you know now you know the reason why I don't have good grades. Probably I do, but not the A class grades that everyone thinks that an Indian guy should get. But there you go, N- 89 out of 90. No, not those grades. I don't get those grades. I've never seen those grades, and I probably won't. But it don't
What
matter.
kind of grades do you get, Prantic? That's what
I
the audience
get
know.
85 out of 90.
85 out of 90. That's a disappointment. Those 5 marks that were
all
missing.
right. Oh man.
But you know
So
what
Oh.
though? Just from actually carry on, Prantic.
no, no, go ahead.
I think there's a few things just from you describing what makes you miss goals that I think can be interesting. And I kind of had a pre-made plan for what to talk about, but it almost could venture into something else. So you're mentioning your priority list and how some things might be higher on your priority list than others. And ones that are naturally higher in your priority, you'll find easier to achieve. I
Mm-hmm.
think the other part that was interesting was um, you not factoring in laziness as well. So I think if we don't factor in laziness, because I think it's very easy when everyone's all motivated, they've just watched a Gary Vee video, they've watched a Machiavelli video into the bodybuilding side of things. They've watched ever, but then plan the goals. Like I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna do this nonstop, 3 hours sleep, boom, I'm gonna get after it. When often it can be handy for people to, consider you in not a pessimistic state, but just a very realist state. Like, okay, I'm feeling this kind of way today. Maybe how I feel should have a little bit of a gauge in my views. But I think the most important thing with feeling is how you're going to feel overall on the average.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how you're feeling days out of 10, not the one day that's super up, not the one day that's super low. So I think we need to really manage it to our lifestyles and make it attainable in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on Nick?
No, I completely agree. Like the whole prioritization thing, like when you're looking at, aspects such as, your work, family life, even like social events coming up, like, people out there, you got to understand that these have a massive, role in terms of, how well you're progressing. So I think what people need to understand is that although goals can be hit in a shorter time period, if your priorities aren't necessarily just training and nutrition, what you got to understand is in order to achieve goals in a very healthy manner, you have to extend out that time frame,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you got other things that is a priority to you, or
Needs your
sort
attention.
of needs your attention, right? And you know what, like I think people need to understand that it's okay if that's the case. Like it's okay that you don't hit this goal in 2 weeks. It might take you 3 weeks or something like that, just because of this little itty bitty priority task that you have at hand.
The
So
thing is,
yeah, like
I
I
definitely
agree.
agree with you, Nick. And sometimes all these that Connor's talking about Machiavelli motivation and all these things. I'm 100% good for it. Like they pump people's they actually boost people's positivity, and then they hold it very high. But at the same time, they're also making people think that they're losers. Like I'm not saying that I hold a grudge against it. I'm saying that they just make people think that if not now, then when?
It's disappointing.
Yep.
Like there's people out there that have that mentality of I want results quickly,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's disappointing when you don't hit, these goals as
Mm.
quickly as you want to. So like yeah, like as you're saying, you feel like a loser.
Exactly.
Like
It's
I
definitely
feel yeah.
it's definitely a very individual component to that kind of thing. When you go on like a Machiavelli, even just across social media, one person can look at the things that people will have better than them. They could see the advanced progress. They could see them showing their highlight reel on social media, and they could have the thought process of, oh, cool, that's going to give me something to go, something to compare myself, something to strive towards, as a word, and I can move myself that way. Other ones, it's just gonna be like, oh, they're there, or at least they're, showing an image that they're there, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm down here. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that maybe like part of that thing you're talking about, Frantic, is that right? Or is it something
Mm-hmm.
else
Mm-hmm. No,
makes you feel down?
no, I feel it's definitely right. But people most of the time don't take into consideration that like stuff like I'm not only talking about Machiavelli, but I'm talking about, for example, let's talk about, because we are doing an exercise podcast, our health and
Mm-hmm.
fitness podcast. Let's talk about people who are into fitness industry. So people who are watching other people who are in the fitness industry, they have to realize something. That most of the people who are watching these videos, or most of the people who are listening to other people who are in the fitness industry, these people who are giving them these ideas, these positivity, these boosts, are actually uh, working in this industry. So, for
Mhm.
example, it's their professional life. So they earn bread by training themselves, training other people, training for comp. That's their bread. Uh,
Mhm.
while other people who are listening and getting motivated, they often, or like they rarely or very, um, I would say, poorly take into consideration that they have a different lifestyle, which has very less to do with fitness being their main bread earner. Do you get what
Mm.
I did? I come through clearly?
100%. I think we're about to talk about goal setting and where you want to go, and then you dive a bit deeper for the reasons and whatnot. And one thing we've got to remember, and this is very, very important for listeners, it is very important to compare yourself and where you want to go in your future to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
not to others,
Mm-hmm.
because it
Mhm.
might not necessarily be an even match. And it's about the trajectory for the most part. In fact, most of the meaning of life is found in the trajectory, not the outcome. So if you can make sure, okay, I'm comparing myself and my flaws and my weaknesses and my strengths that I have now, and I'm trying to, as a collective, improve all the individual sub-characteristics of my personality, my identity, my this and that forward, is important to compare it to yourself. And if you don't, you're also going to strike into the envy scenario, as
Mm-hmm.
well as just create goals that are too ambitious, or no, not too ambitious, just not appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Just not
Mm.
appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think on more the practical side now for how to set goals. So there is something called SMART goals. So I think it stands for specific, measurable, attainable. There's another R in there.
R and
Maybe
T.
it's realistic.
Yep.
Yeah.
And T,
And then
tangible.
T might be time based, I
Oh,
think.
Tangible.
Tangible as well. Yeah. I can't. I want the spirits in the air to make sure it flows me into. You can't have none of that, because it's got to be in your control as well.
The R is actually relevant. Is that what you said?
Relevant.
Relevant.
No, I
Yeah.
didn't. I
He
definitely
said
said something else.
realistic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely
relevant.
wrong. But I think when we're coming to the table, we've got to make sure that we've, for starters, got the right mindset going into it. Like as we're saying, we're comparing to ourselves. We've also got to make sure we're taking a stock point of where we want to go. And part of that is trying to make sure things are specific. So specific, you can also put in the subcategory of they're time framed. So like we just said in that example. So as Nick was saying before, you need to make sure the time frame is appropriate for these things. We need to make sure exactly we know what to do. Because if we know exactly what we're going to do, we can have the best straight line road towards that place. It's like, I kind of want to do this and that. Well, it's hard to actually program or, create the right path that goes to maybe left, maybe right, maybe a U-turn, maybe a dogleg turn. It's very hard like
Dogleg.
that.
Yeah. True.
You know what dogleg turn is? Yeah. Huge arms.
But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
let me
the
just
thing. What I was trying to get at is like, even though you're setting goals, that SMART goals is what exactly was what I wanted to hit, and then kind of hit the sweet spot. Saying that make sure you know what your priorities are. Like, don't be, I would say, don't set goals that you won't be able to achieve. Set small goals. Nobody is defeating you because you don't have a competition. People always say all these things that, oh, the world is a competition. It only is a competition if you want a job or if you're going for a job interview. That's a different competition. But
What's also like, in order to set goals, you need to know also, like, it's very cliche. It's like any kind of personal trainer that works in a gym. Most of the time when they get new clientels, for example, they sit down with that clientele, they obtain all their information, they run through screening tools, and then they perform, the SMART goals, needs analysis, all those kind of things. And then they also form a baseline of where that client is at. You find out what their exercise history is. Maybe depending on the client, there could be some testings involved just to kind of see relatively where they're at and things like that. So, that's having
assessment.
pretty much, correct. And you need those kind of, but you need all that information to kind of set goals going forward.
Exactly.
So definitely important. Just like, even if exercise history, is not much, or it extends back 5 years, sometimes it's relevant information that can help you going forward. So definitely is got to be considered when thinking about how to set goals.
Yeah, because I know it's definitely like a thing of like we're trying to move from point A to point B. And we're like talking about mainly the B, but I think what you alluded to was more the A, like finding out, your history and this and that. And that's going to tie into those goals again. Because if you know how they've gone with certain things or what things are going to hold you back, it's going to help make the time frame more realistic. Someone's got, like, he's saying before Prime Tick, they've got no job, their bread and butter is the industry, that's how they're getting paid. They'll have more resources, this and that to go towards it. You can get to their goal potentially a little bit quicker. So you need to find that A part, and then with a subsector of time frame it's got to be manageable.
True.
So
And-
already
and I
map
actually-
experience and stuff.
I was just going to allude. I think that's probably one of the big mistakes that we do. I see a lot in this industry is a lot of people, they focus on, like you're saying, they focus on the B and they forget about the A, and they don't realize how important the A is to getting to B.
Exactly.
And exactly. So when we're thinking about, oh well, what mistakes do we see in this industry? That is one of the most basic, simple ones that people just push aside.
Mhm.
Majority of people push aside. A very minority group. The high level coaches out there, Connor. They don't exclude. So like that, I would say when I see a lot of trainers out there, that's definitely one of the big mistakes that I see that a lot of trainers do.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, it's important to focus on your A, and also, this is for trainers especially out there. Like, not everything is always such a one size fits all approach. Like I think people need to understand that people come from various backgrounds, and people come or are at different stages in their training. So training age in particular, and I think when it comes to setting up goals and moving forwards, understanding those aspects, are so important. When you neglect it, mistakes are made, injuries happen. There's a reason probably why you can never retain a client, because they're simply not, hitting goals. Say you take someone who's barely ever trained, right? And you're basically having to teach them new movements and things like it. It's completely, like novel, like not, it's new to them. They don't understand it. They don't know it. You're there coaching and guiding them. Do you really think it's, like should you be slapping on all this weight trying to make them, like execute form incorrectly and things like that? Is that really, yes, their goals might be improved strength. Doesn't mean you load 100 kilos on a deadlift bar kind of thing. Or
What
just
was it?
things
Lift,
like
bro. Don't matter. Lift, bro.
But yeah, so that's basically what, some of the mistakes that I, generally see.
This is very correct. Like, I would definitely agree to Nick that not in case of trainers only. It's in case of any sort of even if you're doing goal setting for yourself, you should be
Mm.
mindful of what you're doing and what your primary target is, so that you can set
Mhm.
B. You shouldn't just look into other people and saying, "Oh, he can do it. Why can't I?" Probably it's his bread, and you don't know what he has been through to do that. He might have been doing this for 10 years. It might look easy to you, but when you go there and try to do it, you fail, and you just make a fool out of yourself. You
Mhm.
might be able to. It's like, oh, this guy's lifting a car. I can do that. You go lift a car, but you get injured, but you impress people who are looking around, and next day you're in a wheelchair. So
And the longer people follow, I guess, these bad, patterns, the more you have to unlearn everything that you've learned.
exactly.
And that sometimes, can stem from, people out there that have been coached, wrong,
In the wrong
or
way.
listen to the wrong people. What's that phrase, Frantic?
Want to call out some names,
Um,
Frantic?
Memories.
Yeah, I
Bring
know.
back memories. Bring back you. Ooh, 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 ooh. But no, this is very nicely put, Nick. Very nicely put. Practical.
Mm.
We have seen some first-hand practical applications of people being wrongly coached. It's not only on the coach as well. It's also on the student. Sometimes the
Mhm.
student picks up wrong because the student cannot assess themselves. So, uh, the coach might be right, and then the student don't pick up, or student don't follow. You don't get to the goal that easily. Then, like, you won't be able to achieve the goal in the set period of time if you're not following what it is. Sometimes people just think that, okay, he gave me 3,000 calories, and he's telling me that I'm gonna lose weight. Hey, there is a procedure to it. You're eating 3,000 calories just to speed up your metabolism, so that your body can get used to food, it can get used to faster burning of fat at the same time. But a lot of people don't realize this. He's like, oh wow, 3,000 calorie diet? Wow, I'm gonna go fat. No, you're not gonna go fat if you're burning that calories in the schedule the amount of exercise. Because if a person is actually prescribing you 3,000 calories of food while you're getting lean, that means he knows that you're at a level where you can do it.
Mm.
Versus you just going for it. Oh, let's go 800 calories, keto, all these sort of bullshit things that people just do on their own, and then they think that okay, I'm doing keto, I'm gonna lose so much weight. Yes, you're gonna lose weight, but at the same time, your body's gonna look disproportionate. You're gonna look like a drum, like a
Mm.
one of those water jugs sitting on the
I guess
The
you
drum.
kind of, yeah, yeah.
Honestly, this keto drum.
the keto drum.
um, actually, that's a good point you bring up about like just fad diets in general. Like, I guess, we hear about success stories, with fad diets, and again, people are, oh, well, their goal is, I want to lose weight. They follow a fad diet, may not necessarily work for them. Again, it's a mistake people make, because probably in that regards, when they see people, oh, I've lost 30 pounds, or 10 kilos or whatever, they kind of go, oh my god, like this is my shortcut, to
Yeah,
losing weight kind
yeah.
of thing. Exactly. And a lot of
Yeah.
time it's shortcuts,
And it's wrong.
they're mistakes that are made. Yeah.
And it's
I
wrong.
think to tie
Yeah, go ahead,
go on,
Connor.
Pratik.
Go on.
I think to tie back a little bit of what both you guys were saying and tie back to goals a little bit, it's important to understand that, yeah, we may have a goal in mind, but we've also got other components of our life that are important as well. And we've also got maybe longer, more futuristic plans of even that category of thing. So you look at Nick's scenario before of, hey, I want to squat, and they go right chucking on weight before looking at technique. You look at your example of you bump up the calories and get the metabolism, in a proper position and the health good before you go into deficit.
Mm-hmm.
They're both investments. And you may look at it, okay, in those examples, one wants to get lean, one wants to get strong. They want to be able to lift 100 kilos. If you are too fixated on what is the quickest avenue, you might end up choosing that, but it might also have the longest repercussions and hurts your longer term goals as well.
Exactly.
Because in one scenario, you've got terrible metabolic adaptations potentially, as well as some health issues. In other ones, you got a whole bunch of injuries, and yeah, you could squat at 100 kilos for a day, but now you can't walk. And you could have done 150 if you did things properly. So I think
True.
you look at things at different portions, and it's like, okay, yeah, I want to make sure, because I think most people want to set goals. There's a fundamental principle of they want to improve. But I'm sure most people don't want to improve for just one part of their life at one time, and that's it. They probably want to keep improving across the board. And that's what draws a lot of people to this industry after all. We're trying to improve ourselves. And it's not just improve yourself 5% and you stop there if there's still more on the table. So
I have a
we've got,
motivational thing for. Sorry to cut you, Connor.
keep going. No, go on.
I have a motivational thing for our listeners. I would say it is not everybody is a Dorian Yates or Ronnie Coleman. If you guys know who they are, forget that. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Not everybody is Arnold Schwarzenegger. You are Conan O'Brien because you're unique. You have some characters that is unique. Nick Xanthopoulos, same thing. You're unique because you have some characters. In the same way, whoever's listened to us, you guys are unique because you have certain characteristics. You have a plan A and a plan B and maybe plan C, D, E. But you should never compare your own life with that life of Arnold Schwarzenegger because he was a different man. It was a different era. He was a different man and he had different goals. But don't ever demoralize or small yourself by saying that, oh, he achieved so many greatness. Look at your small things that you've achieved. And that's where a lot of people lose confidence. I feel like goal setting also comes with confidence and other stuff like that, hand in hand. Progression, regression that we also talked about previously. And I feel like every person is unique, and every person throughout their lives achieves small targets. And those are some things that you should look back on in times of uncertainty, when you don't feel like you have a positive vibe coming through, or that's when you look back on these things. You're saying that, okay, last season I did this, I lost 5 kilos and I successfully did it. So you look back on that and then you try to dig up that thing. Okay, I lost 5 kilos, how did I lose it? So I feel like looking into your past is also will also helps you in your future goal setting. in terms of motivation, positivity. It gives you little positivity that, okay, I did this, I bought a car, or I landed a job. It doesn't matter, especially in COVID times, where a lot of people have lost their jobs. Fitness industry has been hammered, and a lot of people are brutally, like, been fired, furloughed. We see so many bad things happening around, but the best way to not lose focus or not lose um, orientation for your future goals or whatever goals you set earlier this year, is to just look back into stuff that you have achieved. And a lot of people say this, I know, but it is the reality. So if you look back a little bit, you don't have to go further back, like when you're born and stuff, because you won't remember shit. But just saying that maybe 2 years back, or a year back, last year, at the same time, maybe you're doing something which is relevant, and maybe you're doing something that is goal worthy. Maybe you achieved a goal, and that's why you're here now. Maybe you scored that job, that personal trainer job that you're doing, or you finished your personal training certification. These are good goals that can help you push forward. Do you guys agree with me on that?
Yeah, like when you're bringing up like
100%.
Dorian, Ronnie, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, like honestly, like any like person or like from any kind of sport out there, I think there is always something we can, learn from them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
their stories have all been written, that we know it. Like there's something that always comes out. We listen to it, we learn it. There's always something we can learn. I think the problem is when we're skipping straight to like the acute things, like such as like let's looking into program design now. Like, all right, like how many sets and reps did Arnold do? Oh, maybe that's the sets and reps I need to do. How did Dorian train? Oh, that's how I need to train, kind of thing, right? So, like, if you look into those guys, it's yes, there are things we can learn from them, and that's exactly how this industry has grown. Their stories and how it's developed. That's all been a part of that. But I think like I said, skipping those acute variables can that again. That's where mistakes generally made, and I guess through your own experience, that's how you're only going to really like. That's how you learn if you go down that route. But I do agree with you for the most part of that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you've really got to treat people as individuals. So, you mentioned like looking at people like your potential Ronnies and Dorians and stuff like that. Yeah, you can look to people and for certain characteristics, but it goes deeper than that. For example, we might all belong to groups like, when it comes to training, for example, I might be, taller, so I could look at someone taller. So then you got a tall versus short division, or long limb versus short limb division. Then you could have has a lot of stress. And then, okay, you could now be a few categories. You could be tall with stress, without stress. You'd be short with stress and without stress. And then you introduce more variables,
a lot of
better
categories.
food quality. And then it goes more and more and more. And you get to the stage where the individual, even if they're the majority of all these different groups, would still be the ultimate minority. And this is why you've got to treat people as individuals. Yes, they can. They belong to different brackets, but there's going to be a really low chance you can have a bunch of case studies that are across. Literally, how many variables do we really look into when we're doing programs on? Like 50, and then like think of how many combinations there will be with 50. It could be A, B, and then like A, B, blah blah blah. It could be so many different things. So that's why you got to tie the individual again. It really ties to you've got to set your goals for you. And as for the looking back part of things you're mentioning, I think it's important because, I think in my life, I used to just have this observation and I just thought, oh, okay, maybe it's just something I'm seeing. Maybe there's a bit of a bias. Maybe there's
more to it.
Causation doesn't equal correlation kind of thing. And I just noticed that some people with that would have success that continue to have more and more success. And other people that just have a hard time, they just have more and more bad things happen. It's like you just can't catch a break. And it turns out there's actually a psychological thing behind it. It's called the Matthews effect. So the idea, if we can slowly accumulate small little wins and wins and wins, it's almost like the idea of getting the ball rolling. It's kind of like investing. You get like a little bit, it's easy to invest, make more money, which will make you more money, blah, blah, blah. A little bit like that. So with the goal setting as well, So we're talking about goals, and you could have, realistic, manageable goals in a fair time frame, all these things, and it could be to be a 200 kilo squatter in 10 years. But it's also important to have your goals of being able to squat 60 kilos with good form. There's also the goal of 70 kilos good form. And you ride this momentum. We're chatting about it the other day with Seb's program, how you get the easier weeks in. That momentum and that win to win to win is not to be undervalued. And it really will transfer to the rest of your life as well. And that is something that has been documented. It's not just some hokey pokey like promise or claim. So I think with your goals as well, looking at these big picture things, but you've got to understand the Matthews effect and the small things inside there. As well as it's going to be like, oh, wow, this looks so overwhelming to climb to the top of Mount Everest. Even if it's reasonable, it's good to know you've done the little things along the way, like you've been saying.
You've gone to the first base of Mount Everest.
Yeah.
That's one of the small things that you achieve. Yeah, I mean, like what we are talking about right now really is something that people should adhere to, and by adherence I mean set realistic goals, goals that you can achieve. Like for example, if you want to change your exercise pattern, if you want to go to the gym regularly, just start small. Like start that's all. Some of my friends, this is a very realistic example I'll give you. Some of my friends ask me, hey Prantik, how do you make it to the gym every day? Well, I'm not making it to the gym every day right now, but I'm saying, I tell them, whoever is trying to, like, okay, can you give me a fat cutting diet? I'm like, look, I'm no expert, but what I would suggest is start by waking up in the morning. Like, start by waking up at 6 a.m. They're like, why? What's the point? I'm like, the point is, if you start waking up at 6 a.m., then you have longer period of working hours, so you can work for a longer period of time. You have a better utilization of the daytime. And second, when you start waking up early, you get more time to punch in more meals, get more shorter meals in. That's how you get more time. That's the concept of waking up early. So you can have smaller meals over breaks of every 2 hours, 3 hours. So you can, by the time you're at work, you already had 3 meals. And you already had those 3 meals are equivalent to 1 meal that you like gunk down early in the morning. Okay, good morning everyone, let's go to Dunkin' Donuts. That's the first thing Americans do. And Dunkin' has the logo on it, says America runs on Dunkin'. That's true, because people just wake up in the morning, get their chai latte from Dunkin' Donuts probably, or probably get a sweet tea, or probably grab munchkins and stuff. These are completely irrelevant shit that I'm talking about, because in Australia it's Krispy Kreme. Australia runs on Krispy Kreme. So it's the same concept here. It's the same thing. It's a sugar shop that's selling you sugar. So that's the thing. Unless you're buying black coffee from there. But I'm nothing against these shops. But I mean, like, if you want to become a better version of yourself, setting goals and achieving is generally becoming a better version of yourself. If you want to become a better version of yourself, just do stuff small, and then those wins will all add up and give you that big win that you're already going for. That's all I have to say. And I feel like everybody should start small, and then try to build up, and then things that are achievable, achieve it first, and then go to the target that is a little bit harder to achieve. For example, eating just pan fried chicken, not pan fried. It's a pan stirred in the pan with a little bit of oil, spray. That chicken, you can't just eat that in the first day. When you're eating chicken tikka masala on a regular basis with rice, you can't just shift over to a meal which has no masala in it. You know what I mean? No spices in it. So obviously you won't adhere to it. This also brings back to the conversation that we had before, a few episodes before, where we were conversing about diet change and all sorts of things like that. And that's what I feel people lack. They don't want to set those small goals, or they just skip over those small goals too fast. And then they think, oh, it's okay. 2 months and then they're gone. There's a secret to why people, like, I wouldn't say I'm boasting, but there's a secret to why I can adhere to my 5 years of eating just bland chicken. That's because I started small. I didn't go the first day I woke up and I'm like, okay, bland chicken. No, I started reducing the spices slowly, 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 slowly over time. And then a point came when my brain knew, okay, this is the new normal. And then
Mm.
and that's how I achieved eating diet food. And that's where a lot of people make mistakes. I know you guys can explain this better. When a person goes to a personal trainer for maybe a fat loss journey, or looking for muscle gain, muscular gain, strength gain, stuff like that, they just give them a diet, but they don't tell them that what you're eating now, mm, is correct, it's not bad, but slowly reduce it over time. They're like, okay,
Mm,
next Monday onwards, let's go. This is your diet.
mm.
There's a thing.
Uh, I like it's like when take someone that like drinks like 6 liters of Coca-Cola a day. What's the healthiest way to switch them over? It's like taking the 0 liters or switch them to Coke Zero. It's like
Mm-hmm.
probably Coke Zero. Like I'm not making any health claims, by the way. All you people out there that's gonna go for me about aspartame or some shit, like I'm not here for that shit. All right. But to summarize, both your points as short as possible. It's basically, to create success for yourself. It's doing a lot of small things really, really well every single day. And obviously understanding there might be some bumps in the road, but that's basically the key. Yes, it's great to look at the overall picture, but narrow it down to the individual, right? And do those little things really good, whether it's, getting your sleep right, every single workout down to every single exercise, down to the tempo that you're doing, or you're eating, like, for example, if you're the guy that loves your sauces and stuff like that, and those sauces are packed full of calories, and that's been your current lifestyle, and you just want to make that transition, and it's doing those little things, even though sauces aren't really like, I'm a big fan of it, but anyways, like that's my side of the
Barbecue
story. But
sauce.
like,
Sweet
but
Barbary.
but yeah, like just basically success, as they all say, is just doing a lot of small things, well,
Mm-hmm.
just to really summarize both your points there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
going, I guess how that, like, we can really tie that into what we're about to speak about next, which is long term versus short term goals. Connor, like, when you're looking at that, like, you know, talk to me about that long term versus short term goals. What are your thoughts? On both of them. Do you prioritize one over the other? Do they change actually? Does whatever your long term goal is is that subject to change? I think that's an important one to talk about.
Yeah, just trying to process all that. I think at the start of making any goal, you need to be really. It's worth spending a lot of time making sure what you're trying to do is a goal that works, for you and best, and is the right thing to do. Not so part of that involves, relating it to not who potentially you want to be and what you want to do in terms of your adherence, but who you are. You're not comparing yourself to Joe Blow, who's completely different. So with that whole process, really set your time, get as much advice from many experts to really make sure your goal then the road is good. So as for like making sure long-term goal is good, yeah, it can change. I usually would say it's change either if you realize it's the wrong direction for you, or you just pass the goal and you're surpassing it. But I think overall, coming back to like which one should we focus on, like you're saying, long-term goals are usually just the additions of, it's your reps essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like people talk about like you make 10,000 shots, you're good at shooting. It's the small shot. It's the one. It's plus the one that gets to 10,000 at the end of the day. And it's a lot more manageable and it's a lot less daunting. And it's probably not going to scare the shit out of you, or at least turn you off the whole idea. I've got to do all this for that long. I've got to, have the chicken breast for 5 years. Like that's a lot for someone,
True.
So you really got to match adherence. So I think short-term goals overall is how we should look at things. But then you also, you achieve the short-term goal, but but there's almost subsectors of that short-term goal that will help the next short-term goal. And again, like part of the ball rolling is, yeah, you invest in the now, but you also invest in the future. So yeah, we make sure step 1 is done well. But hopefully step 2, if I can do things right, will be a little bit easier as well. And that should tie into step 3 and 4 and 5.
A good analogy is I'm going to steal this quote from Will Smith. I'm sure you guys know it. It's what does he say? He goes, I want to set out to build the biggest, baddest wall, and he goes, but do you want to look at it like that? Or do you want to start with, I've got this, brick, right? And I want to lay this brick as perfectly as I can, right? And if you do that every single day, eventually you'll have a wall.
Great wall.
Right? So
that's what Trump is doing. Laying down one brick at a
No
time.
politics on the podcast. You don't talk politics or religion on the dinner table. You haven't said any views. We're all good. We're going to steal listeners from every side of the equation.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but that is a very nice analogy, Nick. Go ahead with it.
Yeah, and I think the thing with the brick as well, I'll let Nick come back to it as well. With all these goals and stuff like that, winning the lottery might not be a good goal because it's a lot out of your control. Putting that down that brick the best you can is part of that goal.
Buying that lottery ticket.
Yeah, but you're also versing so many people and how much control do you have of them not getting it versus, you getting the right ticket, the right place, you know what I mean? Like, I get you, and it's true. But the more control you're going to have of things, well, then it's going to tie to your actions, and your actions are the best variable, at least from you, that can put you in that direction.
It just talking about the brick then just reminded me of the story of the 3 pigs. What is it? Like
I'll puff and I'll blow you away.
Yeah, exactly. They all try to build. Yeah, hay. What was the other one? Sticks.
I can't remember. I think it might have been sticks. So I think hay was the worst, or was that
hay?
Was that the worst or second worst? Because bricks was obviously best.
Yeah. So but again, yeah, I can't remember. Oh shit!
Too far back. Dads. That's what I'm saying. Like, don't go too far back because you'll get shit mats. You can't retain those memories. So
that's right. That's right.
Oh man, what do you got? Straw and sticks, and bricks.
Straw, sticks, and bricks.
Yeah. So that was it. Okay, we got there eventually. But like. Again, for you young kids out there, if you aren't grasping the understanding of what we're really trying to talk about, essentially look at the story of the 3 little pigs. Which was the most successful pig? The one that took his time building the house made of bricks. All right, so
everyone else is bacon.
Oh my God, what did we say? Not gonna break.
Hey, this is food. But it ties it back to what I was saying, like achieve those small things, which is your short-term goals, and over time you'll know that you've without you even knowing, you'll already achieve your long-term goals. So that is very important. Important. Now this brings me to the question: adherence. What do you guys do to adhere to the short-term goals that you have set? For example, Connor, in these times, I know you have that barbell. You had this story last session where you had this barbell full of grease, and then you had to go outside, rub your hands on dirt, and then get that's a perfect example of you achieving your short-term goals of lifting, no matter what. So talk to us.
Yeah, I think it ties to the value system. Quick backstory for listeners. I wasn't sure I was going to share this, but I bought a bunch of new weights, and part of the thing was there was a lot of grease in them, and that makes it quite hard to grip the bar. Like, I can deadlift just over 200 kilos, right? But gripping 120 was rough. And even with straps, which is the normal go-to with grip, being somewhat of an issue if you can.
That's just straps with grease on it.
Yeah, even that was starting to, do things. And I was checking, there's no chalk in the house, there's no this. So, yeah, I was rubbing in the dirt before I was doing my lift. Because in terms of the value system, me getting a disease was lower on my priority. Disease prevention was lower on my priority than this freaking lift. So, again, you need to manage it to, people's hierarchies in their life. If they really want it, then okay, if someone really wants someone, then you got more room in the adherence window. Because imagine like I only kind of want this. You're only going to do it if it's really easy. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just something you can do as part of the habit every day kind of thing. So there might be certain parts of my life I don't really care about that much. And maybe that would be like, oh, I'll do it because it's there. Imagine you really struggle with brushing teeth, but you cared more about lifting. If you store your toothbrush and it was just part of the thing for 2 seconds, it'd be easier. Yeah, so you assess people first with how much of a gap they have. You figure, okay, how much the gap is, and that can tie how much variation you can have, away from what they might enjoy most. And then you look at their psychological profile, and then you cross-reference, okay, what do we need, to do to get to the goals, and what can they adhere to, and how can they line up? So people can be too gung-ho of adherence. A lot of overweight people, the easiest thing for them to adhere to is a caloric surplus. I'm sorry, that's not going to help. So you do not need to understand that there is a degree of, to learn how to swim, you need to jump, you need to go in a pool, essentially. Yeah, so let me just, before I lose my track. So we're chatting about
Adherence.
Okay. Yeah, and I think one thing you can do is once, you're trying to get people on the right path, some people are more motivated by fear of failure, other people by, the idea of success. You can kind of do something like, if this is something people can do at home, and it can kind of tackle both. And as part of something called a future authoring program, you can imagine, okay, you have a really honest look at your life. Maybe you have a psychologist or some people you trust, or do some research on these things, and you line up all your good traits, bad traits, and you go, if I was to not check all my negative traits or do what I'm doing now, how bad could the hell I leave myself down the road be in 5 years? And then you compare that to, if I get all my stuff together, how good could all my things in my life be in 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that usually tackles people really well. And then you have the programming, the this and that they could adhere to for the most part. There's not too much of a stretch. And yeah, you're usually going to go in the right direction from there.
Nick, how do you adhere to your short-term goals?
So basically, like, I guess
You don't?
no, like of course I do. It's just more questions I'll tend to ask myself. So like, for example, if it is mindset type, like I'll tend to ask myself, okay, what, when we're talking about prioritizing, tasks, and obviously things might, for me, in particular, they might come quicker or they might come later, just depending on my habits and things like that. I've really got to ask myself the question, what would I rather? Would I rather something take me 2 years to get there, or would I rather like do something so fucking hard, crash and burn, and never want to do it again, for like another year kind of thing, and it's like the story of, so those people that like want novelty to their program. So we spoke about program hopping recently, and one of the many benefits of program hopping, which is virtually none, but one of the benefits is, it's an exciting new experience, right? And those programs that tend to be just ridiculously hard, right? What tends to happen? You do it and you crash and burn, right? Yes, you've satisfied the need of creating some excitement in your life, but you've now, it's just, if you got 1 week on, 1 week off, you've now spending half the year, kind of, in that deload sense. So how do I, if you go drawn back to the question of, adherence, for me personally, I just ask myself, those simple questions. Well, what would I rather, right? And I guess also, it's just understanding, like I said, I think the major thing, for me in particular, is I know that like progress isn't linear, right? And that's actually something I want to kind of get out there. Not everything is going to be, like you're always kind of moving forwards in the right direction. Sometimes you will stop. Sometimes you might have to take a couple steps back. For me in particular, I had a knee injury and I took many, steps back. And it's just, the things that help keep moving you forward is, like, you just got to understand that this is going to take some time, right? And to be honest, I don't really have to go much further than that, because like I'm quite confident, that things will be okay. Especially when things do go bad,
Mm-hmm.
all right, things will be okay, and as long as I'm, you know,
Mentally focused.
mentally focused and put myself in the right direction, then I don't really care how long it takes. So time frames never really bothers me in that sense.
I feel like a
But
very good injury
again,
is your
it's
very good example is the injury that you recently had.
yeah, yeah. So like I was saying, yeah, like yeah, at the time I was down on myself. I was demotivated. I couldn't fucking walk, for God's sake. But then when I was able to come back, like again, like I wasn't able to do things, but I had still had goals in mind. I still had things I wanted to achieve. I remember how excited I was when I put 40 kilos on my back and I was able to do a full squat. I think, Connor, you were there and you're like, yes, the road to 250 is back. And I was like, yeah, like, but again,
Did
it's
say
a
that, yeah.
long-term goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, it's good to have, those things, in, like in line. But again, I was just, at the time, I really wasn't caring about the weight. I was just caring about, how I was moving. So like goals tend to change a little bit, when setbacks like that do occur. You start looking at, other aspects, and that could just, yeah, weight is important, but it's like what Connor was saying before, I need to tick off the box of, can I move 70 kilos of weight pain free, effective, or like, the movement was, pretty kind of thing, right? So like goals start looking like that. So, I mean, from my injury standpoint, I guess, although things felt like I regressed a lot, like I haven't put 150, 180, 200 kilos on my back, in over a year,
Mm-hmm.
right? But, what keeps me moving forwards is the fact that, okay, I've shifted my mindset a little bit, right? But I'm now progressing in other ways, which I may not have necessarily looked at, prior to before my injury. So that's what's helping me adhere to this, because I know what I'm capable of doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But, obviously the avenue I'm going down now is slightly a little bit different to what I initially hoped, right? But I got to ask myself that very same question. Well, what would I rather? Would I rather not do this, right? And, experience a lot of pain and bad movement patterns for the rest of my life? Or would I rather do this and get back to where I was,
Mm-hmm.
right? Excelling, in strength training. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it definitely speaks to one of the smart things being goals got to
Smart
be
goals.
relevant. So as things change, the relevancies need to be taken into consideration. So when you got that knee thing, then now there's suddenly new goals and more relevant to your current scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So I think on that, guys. So talking about Nick's goals in particular, we decided at the end to do something a bit funner. Like maybe share with the audience what some of our goals are. And maybe you guys in the audience, if you're listening, maybe comment below and we'll see how you're going with that. Guys, what are some of your goals? Tick.
My first goal is to go that way. No.
Audio only listeners, he just did a bicep flex pointing.
Okay, no. So the primary goal right now, I would say, right now is obviously graduation is on me. I graduated in December. And once I graduate, my primary goal would be to get my status secured here in US and A, the birthplace of okay, and then probably get a job for myself so that I can retain my plan B, uh, which is probably at this point is to uh, get settled, stay healthy all along, and become a rich man through this podcast. So, quick diversion, guys. If you want to support us, we have a Patreon page, so feel free to support us. And all of us has a Patreon page, and you can support these guys right here. by taking a quick guide to health, which is an ebook that both of them have written, Nick and Connor. So this is a new goal for you guys. So there you go. I set your goals now.
By the time this podcast released, we're going to release a book and set up a Patreon, pretty much.
But nah, all jokes apart, I feel like me 2 years ago had a different goal, and through experience, which you all guys all know what experience I'm talking about. Through experience, I've learned that over a period of time you need to focus on that plan A, so that you can make sure all the gears in your car are smoothly oiled, so that your car runs smooth, and then you can eventually achieve that plan B without failing. You know, so that's my primary goal right now. So any of y'all from America listening to us have a job or know someone, holla at me. What
Yeah,
about
you're
the
just
rest of
pumping away at uni though at the moment, to be fair, aren't you?
Yeah, almost done.
Yeah.
So I better pull the home stretch.
Hmm.
What about you, Connor? What's your recent goal? Is to get out of the house?
Yeah, that'd be lovely here in Victoria. Can't really get out of the house. So fitness related, let's think. Honestly, even though I had this question in the pre-made questions, I haven't thought about it one bit. I think honestly, the idea of progress, just in general, is very fulfilling in itself. Just the idea of moving in a path that's, taking a little bit of responsibility as like part of the process. It's giving you a bit of meaning there by default. And you understand you're checking yourself and you're moving yourself forward. The kind of whole self-improvement thing in general, if it's happening, it's happening. And there's many variables in your life that will help. So let's say you got your health, you got your fitness can tie into that. You got your relationship with friends, your family, your romantic side of things. You've got your finances, you got your career, which can be two separate things. You got like a bunch of different things we can improve. So the whole sum of those 6 or 7, whatever it may be, are improving the right path.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's probably fair to say me as a human being is doing better as well. Granted, time's not the only factor that's helping there. As for fitness, you know what? So I think I struggle. So I was introduced more into the bodybuilding or body composition side of the gym first, just because, I was started off as a bit more overweight. And I like the idea of putting on muscle, but then powerlifting just seems cooler and cooler and cooler, So, So sometimes I'm like, okay, would I prefer to get bigger or have certain strength goals? And honestly, strength goals interest me more, but unfortunately, more muscle mass is also part of that.
Mhm.
So I need to accumulate more muscle mass even for my strength goals. So I did a 192 squat not too long ago. So if I can get a 200 by mid-year next year, that would be really cool. And that's definitely one of those things I wouldn't have believed I could have done when I started. Not even just started, but like I couldn't, after, making newbie gains and stuff like that. After years and years and years, I couldn't squat 100 kilos for one.
Noob gains.
Yeah. So when it's all meant to be easy and I stuffed it up. So I think that'll be quite a cool moment if I can get there. And I think, there's a classic gym thing where like we like the 20 kilo plates. So if you say you got a 217.5 kilo deadlift, no one cares. It's about the 5 plates, 220, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So across the longboard, I think it'd be nice to get a 260 kilo deadlift, 220 squat, bench, something not deplorable. And honestly, just, as long as I'm doing it, I got the improvements and all these different things, and it's not cutting into other parts of my life,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll be happy overall. How about you, Nick?
Oh,
And what's beyond you
question.
just getting back in better health with your knee as well?
Mm-hmm.
Well, to be honest, that's the main thing, right now. So from a fitness standpoint, and with training, it's just getting everything, pain free. It's very up and down at the moment. As of late, it's actually been quite good. I do notice, however, when I do like subtle push-off movements, like I kind of get that ache on an outer part of the knee. So it's just a process that I'm currently still, dealing with daily. But eventually, yes, the goals are to get back into, the powerlifting style training. So that's my goal. At the moment, eating wise, I'm definitely at a maintenance phase. Just getting an overall health check in. Just
What's your
feeling
body
good,
weight
more
at, Nick?
energy. 97 or
So know
96.9.
the listeners been listening on your fat loss journey since we started the podcast,
Yeah.
and you're at 104. So you made it to 97. Now you're putting on maintenance mode for a bit. Is that right?
Well, I got to 90. I got to 96.6. And now I'm like kind of hovering because I was in maintenance for about I'm in maintenance for about a week and a bit now, and I'm like hovering between like I went up to like 97.3 and then back to 96 point something, and now I think I'm dead set in the middle at 97. So I'm pretty chill with that.
Is that just like a plateau, or is that planned? Like you're going to have a little
No.
maintenance block, or you?
No, it's a planned
Okay.
planned maintenance.
How long are you going to do that for?
Yeah. I'm going to do that for like 2 to 3 weeks, just depending on how I feel, and then I'll actually cut back down just a little bit more again. Still got some, chubba chubs to kind of lose after this little ISO
Chimichanga.
patch coming along. But yeah, so I'm
Sorry,
gonna
carry on.
do
I just wanted to
that.
know for personal reasons. Go on.
Yeah. It's why do you want to know for personal reasons?
Oh, Nick can tell you guys, but he is very good at powerlifting, and he's been able to improve. And I don't know why, I can just see certain numbers in him, and I want him to do it. I think I want you to hit certain numbers almost more than I want me to a degree. Like, what's the number I've been thinking of for your squat? So he's currently at 220 squat, guys, which is 5 plates, which is really freaking awesome for a natural athlete. Yeah, what have I said for you? You need to do
250, wasn't it?
250. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I think I want to
250.
see. Yeah, a 300 deadlift, I think, isn't unreasonable. If you
To be
really-
honest, if
300 deadlift is a big deadlift. That's Josh's lift.
I mean 2018, I was at 255.
Yeah.
So like if I had a
Get
good
back there. Yeah.
yeah, I
Gotta
wouldn't-
get back
yeah.
there. And you're young.
I mean-
you're still young, so you have time.
Yeah, so basically just get back to that. But at the moment, just general health checks. Like I was saying, that's why I like little maintenance phases at the moment. Just for those. Plus it gives you like a little clear-headed, like deficit diets are quite depressing sometimes. So maintenance diets just kind of, for me, I find that I
Pizza,
like
pasta, tikka masala.
Tikka masala. What did I have? I had Rogan Josh again recently.
There you go.
Man, have you ever had, sorry to go a bit off topic, but have you ever had roti canai?
I always have that.
Oh my God. It's like it's more Malaysian style roti, right? Like I usually have like paratha or like naan and all, but this like specific roti canai, it's like flakier, more buttery, and like kind of crispy on the outside. and man, it's the best shit ever. I totally recommend it. I totally fucking recommend it. I don't know why I came to that, but I totally recommend it.
Now you know what kind of foodie Nick is. So that's why he loves his food.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the 250 kilo squat plan involved.
Yeah. But yeah, at the moment, just getting back to full fitness, dealing with this rehab injury, and again cut down a little bit like of fat loss because I need to over the coming months to prep myself basically to returning to the gym where basically I can go all out. Things are actually looking quite good then. Quite like, what's the word I'm looking for? Things are looking great on the horizon.
Beautiful. And if you want to gain that weight back, you can just do Prontics Cycle, the Deca one. That was a Dynabol. 8 kilo in 2 days.
That was a massive
Yeah.
cycle. You do
I'm
that.
Yes.
definitely
Then
cooking up
Achieve
the road to
greatness.
then the road to 100 will slowly occur after that.
Mm,
Yeah. But before we wrap up, just one last thing. The grass is always greener on the other side if you water it. If you don't water it, it's not gonna go green. So water your grass. I don't know if this is relevant or not, but I'm just putting it out. Always
I was hooked in, man. Keep going.
always water your grass to make it greener. So that's your short-term goal. Water the grass that you have, the grass, whatever grass patch you have, water it, and in the future the grass will be greener while you go out on the other side. On the other side, I don't encourage death or suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. All I'm encouraging is always never forget to water your grass or feed your fishes. Whatever, either
Okay.
one.
All right, guys. So our goal for the last bit of the podcast is to somehow tie something about goal setting to whatever the hell you just said.
I think my goal right now is to make this guy shut the fuck up.
All right. So grass is greener. So you're saying water your side
Water your
before
grass.
checking. Okay. Yeah. So basically, look at yourself maybe, and all the things you can do versus what's shiny in you, because at the end of the day, it's you
Mhm.
doing the work.
Mhm.
What else can we
Do what you
what else
can
we do here,
now to see the end results or to achieve the goal that you already want
Yeah.
in the future. Do what you can now, which will slowly
Mm.
add up. This is the whole thing of our conversation today. Do what you can now so that it can add up to something good in the future.
Yeah.
So basically, what I gathered from that is that if grass is green, water is wet. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That is exactly right.
Okay, all right, cool. Guys, that's a wrap.
Thank you for watching the Forge podcast. If you enjoyed it, we'd love for you to subscribe. If you want to find out more about us, check the description. And as always, thank you for listening.